Hello and welcome to TFT Worlds, Day 1, Game number 1. Enjoy!
It says Ishtal coming up. I saw Cardinal.
Yes, that will be confirmed in a second. We'll get
Cardinal Arcology. So
there
this
we
is
go.
Silver Gold and then Prismatic. We got.
Oh, so
Yep.
Cardinal is actually a portal that destroys Earth players because you're forced to gamble for that one random spat for that legend. So let's see if there's any other legend in the lobby that can abuse that to their advantage.
Yeah, of course, we'll be keeping our eyes out. We've had it mentioned multiple times there are different ways to approach the game, even if Earth is the most popular. I mean, Cass, if you're in this position, as Barry said, you've got a chance at a random emblem. Do you want to take that kind of chance?
So I actually think some of the more flexible Earth players are going to be a lot more open to this. They've got the Reforger, so they still at least have one reroll if they do hit something they really don't want. I mean, I'm thinking, Bastion, something people don't like playing around right now. Invoker, people don't really like playing around either. So we might see those get rerolled. Toronto Tokyo has put a lot of work into playing Earth in contested lobbies. That was his main line of focus after a pretty rough final day at the regionals where he felt like the high volume Earth lobbies became very tough for him. So I know he focused on a lot of the more niche lines during his prep, and maybe that comes into a play and we see him take that branching out.
I mean, one thing that the viewers need to notice right now, that since it's a silver start lobby, the lobby is going to be very low cost unit focus. So let's see how the players bring up the early game. Man, is he picking that? Branching out.
He wants to take the gamble. This is such, of course, we're looking ultimately to cut to our top quarter of players. There can be no mistakes made. We have got a lot of branching outs, but we've got a few other interesting options creeping in as well.
Yeah, and Vanquisher was picked up by Bobe, it looks like there on the top left corner from that branching out. So we are seeing quite a few branching outs be grabbed. I believe Toronto Tokyo also did take that. So we're just going to have to look through, see what we ended up getting. And it looks like Tech Summers is on that Lee Sin and took the bronze ticket. So going to be looking for those early rerolls, get some extra tempo going with the upgrades.
There are some really scary boards right now. I think I see a man with the Boppy 2 and a Jinx 2. We're looking at Bobe's board though, however. Okay, so Bobe's playstyle is this. He loves losing until stage 2-4. He does not care about winning then. He gets the first Curacao priority, and then he checks the items that creeps at 2-7. Then he decides what comp to go for, usually. Let's see if he wants to stick with Vanquish or not.
This is a really nice start though for Bobe. Actually having the Shojin slam, we've seen kind of Shojin Karma with the Vanquisher be a quite powerful pairing for this composition, especially when playing for those early top fours, but also it's one of the kind of versions of the Vanquisher comp that's been able to cap out and win lobbies when you can have the Karma go into those other two.
Yeah, and it's working pretty well so far just to make sure that Bobe doesn't take too harsh losses. Certainly the single target damage is to be respected, but we've got plenty more to pay attention to. So it looks like the Slayer emblem will be the reroll choice for Wet Jungler.
This is an LOL moment for the Earth player right now. Slayers are really strong during the late game, but for the early mid game, it does look like an awkward setup. So he put a Morelos and Slayer spat onto Ashe because it is the most optimal, but we shall see if this is going to be good or not.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels tough. We'll see if he can win streak. It did look like he found some upgrades. We see the Poppy 2. We've also got the Samira 2 in the backline. So it's only 2 Slayer on the synergies, but at least having upgraded unit, too heavy of losses, especially since he was able to slam items. Some other players may not feel like they're in a spot to slam yet.
I do want to take note here that what was teased has come to pass. Tech Summers has in fact brought Lee Sin into this game from the very beginning, so that's a whole conversation we need to get into.
Okay, I want to break down the Lee Sin stress. So what you want to do right now with Lee Sin is that you want to use Lee Sin to get early 3-cost carries, and the best one to go for right now is going to be Bilgewater Misfortune. Pi has been talking about this strategy for so long during the preparation of the tournament. I am excited to see what deck Tech Summers is going to end up with.
Yeah, and we've actually seen quite a bit of Misfortune in the scrims. It's been doing relatively well, kind of middling results. What you'd expect from a 3-cost carry. It doesn't seem too overpowered, but it's definitely a strong way to go when trying to play for top 4. Actually, the Brazilian players have heavily been prioritizing it, so it's interesting to see it here as Tech Summers has been preparing with a lot of international players, right? He doesn't just prepare in LATAM, so you may find a mix of strategies from the different regions kind of in Tech Summers play.
There's not Tech Summers is not the only player who's bringing out something a little bit unusual here. Kez, of course, the other Japanese player alongside the legendary title coming to this one, known as an adaptive player, has brought out Poro, which we know is not a popular choice amongst our players for the most part.
Okay, now Piva's board right now is terrifying. He's got two 1-cost 2-star range sword carries in the back, and a Taric can sway in the front with 4 swords already. That is a really hefty start.
So while we jump on Carousel, I actually want to bring up Kurum because he was someone we were questioning which legend he would end up playing. Kurum's really known for this top 4 style, very safe play, playing around a lot of high tempo. So Ezreal and Ornn were the expectations, but we saw him practicing a lot of Earth and trying to play a little bit outside of his comfort zone, but we saw him experimenting a lot, finding some good success on lines that were less popular, and so we see him on the Earth and taking branching out, and so it's kind of a test to see, is Kurum going to succeed heavily on a style that isn't exactly what we attribute to Kurum?
Now, keeping an eye out, we've got a little display on the right-hand side showing us a few extra pieces of information as well. We noted, of course, Bobe going for the Vanquisher early on. We have got ourselves a strategist emblem in the mix as well, so we know that Azir is very likely on the table as well for this game.
This is really cool from like Kermix here. He got the Freljord stat, which isn't really ideal, but he does notice that going for 3 Freljords into maybe a Nyla carry is a top tier deck, so he might be considering that out, and he does prepare his itemization for it, but will he have the HP and resource to get there?
Yeah, it's kind of unique actually. He's got the RFC and an extra bow, which is pretty rare unless you're on the Twisted Fate to be able to have 3 bows this early on, and that's a composition that generally you need to get 5 bows, but the fact that he has 3 of them on 2-5, it's actually quite reasonable that Kurum can get the full composition online without needing that Twisted Fate legend to do so.
Yeah, fascinating start for Kurum. And instead, we'll be able to soften loss much like we saw from before with the use of the Cassiopeia itemize. The Slayers, though, are looking a little bit scary. Do know, though, coming close to the end of the second round, Piva and Beta both on win streaks.
Yep, Piva and Beta on the win streaks. We're going to have to see if they fight each other going into Krugs, but also it looks like Kurum and Bobe are on pretty big loss streaks. It does seem like those will be full, and if they run into each other as well, that's another big inflection point here for the economy of these players.
So we got 2 players fighting for the win streak, 2 players fighting for the loss streak, and now we got Tech Summers, who's right in between with, what is this deck? Does anyone know?
Look like multicasters.
Looks like squids.
This is something
It
we've
looks like
seen
squid.
a little bit.
Okay, so the legendary Squid Comp from Tech Summers. Let's go.
Well, I mean, multicasters, we're certainly familiar enough with them from the previous patch. Guys, talk to me. You know, if we do see multicasters coming out here for Tech Summers, is this going to be viable post-nerf?
Well, the problem in this lobby is that there's 2 win streakers with win streak gold and 2 loss streakers with loss streak gold, right? So Tech Summers, who's a player right in between, won't really have much of an edge, which is that thing. But oh, the fight.
Yeah.
Beta versus Piva.
It's going to be pretty close.
Oh, the Orianna does ult. Oh no, that's a
Just
Silk
the
kill.
snipe. The Jhin.
Oh.
The Jhin got there. Takes that win. So Piva not going to be able to hold on to that win streak. Beta does, so going to have a big inflection of economy, and both of our lost streakers continued their streaks as well.
I mean, it's kind of funny how we're looking at Beta versus Piva for the win streak, but it's actually Toronto, Tokyo
Yeah, he's got one.
that suddenly gets a 4 win streak when no one is noticing. I think that's actually quite interesting to see.
All right, so as I said, we're going to be expecting, of course, our gold augment coming in next. But based on what we've seen so far, how do you guys feel like, you know, they're talking on the desk about the tempo of the lobby. Where are we right now? Are we going super fast or nice and chill?
Well, I think this is a very normal start. We got 2 people on the win streak like around. Everybody did a good job managing their HP except for Bobe and Kurum, but Bobe and Kurum want to lower their HP at least until stage 3-4 so they can get the priority to first Kurizel. So looking like a very normal tempo pace like a lobby so far.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Kurum usually likes to play win streak, so this is, you know, not exactly what we see Kurum on often. However, with the way he's trying to play towards that Neela, as you mentioned, he needs more bows, he needs the carousel priority, and by actually loose streaking successfully, he should be able to do fine with all this economy because his items are going to be very online, and getting that 3 Freljord will be sweet.
All right, we're checking with Toronto, Tokyo with the strategist emblem. As noted before, we can already see, we've seen some good itemization coming across other players. But Toronto, Tokyo has already got pretty well set up for that Azir later on.
This is an amazing build-up from Toronto, Tokyo. We have a good front line with strategists, and we actually have the Fire Ixtal to do bonus damage. A lot of people underestimate the Fire Ixtal, but it actually doubles the damage output of your team. He's going to go up against Piva. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, he's going up against Piva, trying to continue this win streak. Piva did just recently lose, though his board was still quite strong as he was win streaking most of stage 2. Looks like he can't stand up to Toronto, Tokyo. I also want to call out, you talked about the Misfortune line being open as potentially something one of our players was going for. Toronto, Tokyo's itemization, alongside having the strategist emblem, actually looks like it is leaning towards playing that Misfortune as well, potentially maybe going even more vertical instead of re-rolling it and using the Nashor's Tooth for a Azir, but still itemizing Misfortune with the blue buff.
I mean, his options are very open, and now we're going to go into second gold augment of the lobby. This gold augment here is going to decide a lot of directions. This is the point when players are deciding what composition they're going for. Is there anything you guys see in Spectacular that's good?
So dedication from Bobe as a potential.
Oh,
We've seen
that's
this from
good.
Earth players quite a bit. The thing is, though, is Bobe was on the Vanquishers and Ionia, so maybe he could get 5 Ionia and get an Ionia, and we see the +1 Ionia, +1 Vanquisher. I think that's been pretty big for a lot of players.
We have some interesting ones coming through there. I believe we've got a shoplifting creeping in there for Toronto Tokyo. We'll keep an eye out for who the next one will be, because of course we are looking forward to Prismatic to end out our augments for this lobby, so the players' boards will continue to build in strength.
Okay, not bad. He has his main base. He has his itemization components. He has direction. He's found an early forecast 1-star, so he's going to minimize his losses until stage 3-5, get the priority on the Kurizel, then he's going to roll down level 7, looking for his Zaya and his Karma 2-star. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if Bobe can actually get there, right? Because he's going to be taking some big losses right now, as we've seen him not actually be able to find any upgrades just naturally throughout the progression of the game. So it's going to be looking for finding 5 Ionia, getting it in for the, or 4 Ionia, getting it in for the dedication, and then trying to go from there. I wanted to call it quickly, as we saw all of the augments, Wet Jungler also going for dedication. So we'll be looking for the vertical traits out of Wet Jungler and Bobe in this game.
Now, never forget, as you play into this game, your third augment is guaranteed to be a Prismatic, so you do need to use that to your advantage while you play out the mid game.
All right, so checking in on our status overall. Beta still up at the top, undefeated. One of our Chinese players, of course, taking a little bit of a back seat to Ace in terms of people's expectations, but certainly showing up pretty huge in this first lobby.
Absolutely. Taking a look, Tech Summers, Capricious Forge on this Nautilus in the front line. Is playing into this. It does feel like this is that MF line you were talking about.
So this is the legendary tempo strat where you all in at 3 or 3-2 for 3 cost carry, so you can save as much HP as possible at stage 3. You never know what's going to happen after stage 4. If you save HP now, then maybe the players that are weak will die off fast, and that guarantees you a good placement.
So I want to open up the question to you both specifically. In terms of overall approach to the competition, are you more in favor of players playing mostly top 4 or mostly first or 8th?
I think I prefer the top 4 strategy. I think playing for tempo early on is going to be very good. If you can top 4 every single game, you're probably going to make it into that top 8, and then you can, from there, if you need to adjust your strategy, you can. When you're playing the more first or 8th, it's looking for those high rolls. It's a much tougher spot to be in overall.
This is an amazing lobby. We have Mordekaiser with the Rod. We have Nyla. There were so many Vanquisher players, so that Nyla's also a very important pick. And we also have Nasus as a front line, so we have some quality forecasts ready.
So Wet Jungler actually has a Demacia emblem, so that Slayer early game, but then being able to transition it into like 7 Demacia for Slayer. And as you mentioned, Prismatic lobby on the third one, because it's Cardinal Arcology, we might be able to see Wet Jungler even pick up a second Demacia emblem and can play for that 9 Demacia, that heavy spike.
Okay, this is the most important stage of the game. This is when players level, they start rolling down. Bobe's fate is decided on this one roll down here. Karma 2-star, any forecast, any Shens? Shen, we got a Shen, nice. Can we add anything else here? Darius to Zaya.
Oh, we found the
Korea's
Zaya.
winning worlds.
That's all it takes. You just need the right luck at the right time. Bobe going to be pretty pleased, going to turn around this very long loss streak. Is on 39 HP along with Kermex. Both of them still in a dangerous situation.
Okay, Bobe's is not out of the rest spot yet. If you look at his items very carefully, there is no tank items. Sword, crit bow, only 1 bell. So his front line is in trouble at the moment. He does need to figure out how to overcome this, maybe with the third Prismatic.
Yeah, I mean, and even with his gold augment, which isn't even an augment yet because he hasn't procced the dedication, but he will get it here. He will be able to get the Ionia and actually start playing 6 Ionia, start leaning towards those Vanquishers. The fact that Bobe finds the win with all those upgrades is quite nice, because this is still playing down an augment until the next round.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, of course, that will be against Beta, who is no longer win streaking, no longer undefeated. Toronto Tokyo moving up into first place. It does look like now is the time for our players on low HP to try and resurge into the game.
And we were just worried that Bobe did not have front line, but a Scion. Booyah. All right. Wet Jungler's board.
And this, of course, was the one that you were talking about, Cass. The stars really aligning here for Wet Jungler to put out something truly special.
Yeah, he actually finds the Mordekaiser, and he also has this champion duplicator on the bench, so there's a lot of what you can do with that. I'm interested, though, Bebe. Would you just use this for tempo as soon as you find a second Mord, or do you look for a higher cap with something like a Belveth 2, a 5 cost that's upgraded?
So right now, I think going for the Econ choice is a bit more better, so you want to use it to save your rerolls. If you get a Mord 2-star instantly, you can save your rerolls and use that to out-level, so I think the Nico choice will be used. Especially because of how much damage he's taking. Toronto
Yeah,
Tokyo
he's
is
getting
so
hard.
strong right now. Is that shoplifting?
Yeah, it
On
is. So he's
Toronto
going for
Tokyo's side?
econ, and he's still strong. It's an econ trade that he's still powerful with, and he's still carrying this Melio all the way into the late stages of Stage 3, and it's working out. Toronto Tokyo at the top of the line. This is the Toronto Tokyo we saw on day 1 and day 2 of the regional.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Toronto Tokyo, because of course, we know as a player who's very able to find themselves success in many other games, but TFT is still relatively new territory. How high are your expectations for Toronto?
So Toronto Tokyo, I mean, I picked him as my dark horse, and the reason being is that he's been on this massive upward trajectory. All of the tournaments throughout the set were relatively poor performances, but they were ramping up until the LCQ, where he finished second. And generally, we don't have high expectations of our LCQ players going into regionals, but a lot of players were ranking him in their top 5 very highly, thought he was so good, and then he came in and topped the AVP on day 1 and day 2, and it got him in even though he bombed out on day 3.
So we're looking at Toronto Tokyo's board right now, but I'm worried about one thing, and it's that his board that he wants to end with, probably this Bilgewater Misfortune Tech, is not on his board. So he's going to tailor the augments. So the augment that he gets, the 4-2, a Prismatic Augment, might be irrelevant to his board, so I'm a bit worried about that. Let's see.
We do have Tech Summers locking down the 3-star Vel'Koz, so we get a little bit closer to confirming our suspicions from before. For Toronto, though, a lot of money in the bank and a big old win streak. We have to wonder how long that can last.
Right, he's going up against Kurum. The items for the Neela are quite good. It doesn't look like he ended up getting enough bows to go double rapid fire, but Quicksilver is still quite a strong item. And finally, Toronto Tokyo's win streak will be stopped, but it was still a close fight. Good loss. It's basically a win.
Okay, so far the games have been very equal. Now this Prismatic is going to be the finishing touch. What Prismatic we have to watch is shown for each player. All right. Anything spectacular in mind, guys? There's
Yeah, I'm
tactician's
looking
tools.
around. I mean, Tex has what the Forge offered, which is interesting when playing Vel'Koz.
love it.
Because of how good Ornn artifacts can be on that carry, but I'm curious if we'd see that direction happen.
I also think we need to explain to the viewers why there's so many Earth Scrap Bags, because Earth Scrap is a component that gives you a spatula and an Ecos, which is amazing.
Yeah, Spatula going to help out quite a bit. I missed what Jungler's pick. He had Tactician's Tools, so he's potentially going to be able to put an extra unit on the board, or he can look to find additional emblems. It looks like he slammed the Tac Crown immediately, so looking to go vertical. If he finds a random Demacia emblem later, he wins the game. So that actually is a win condition for Wet Jungler.
Oh, baby, that is a big Mordekaiser right there. Oh, and
It was what the Forge. He took it. Wow.
Yeah.
Look, and he's got DFG and Sniper's Focus on his 3-star Vel'Koz. That's insane. That's crazy good.
All right, throwback composition coming here for Tech Summers. He is on a good amount of HP. The backline, of course, well equipped with all of those Ornn items, but the question still remains up against some very powerful balls in this lobby if the multicasters have still got what it takes post-nerf.
Now, I know this may seem like a pro play, but multicasters scale insanely well for an Ornn itemization, especially Deathfire Grasp and Sniper's Focus, so it is actually a viable play.
And the craziest thing is if he hits a Mana Zane, that's the Gigabyss items for a Vel'Koz 3 is to have Sniper's Focus, DFG, and a Mana Zane. And I think that would put Tex in a position to actually win the game, because I think a 3-star Vel'Koz with 4 multis with that itemization is a reasonable comp to find a win.
I'm looking at Kuramex's board, but I think he actually low-rolled this game. I don't see any... I mean, he has a Failure spec, but he has no Failures, for one. And he couldn't manage to find his, a 4-cost 2-star carry upgrades like that Nyla as well, too. This is looking really dark.
Yeah, Karamex out of cash, hasn't got a win streak rather than a loss streak, so he's going to have to try and make sure these rounds go the way that he wants. You see another side from Beta. We've got the Vanquishers doing a pretty decent job themselves. The only emblem we mentioned from before coming into play on his side of things, as Karamex will lose the win streak and be left with very little cash to play with.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the Neela's, he's having trouble finding it and putting together the composition, is it's heavily contested, right? Bobe is in this line. We just saw it as well, Beta being in the line. Overall, we do think that, Vanquisher's Ione will be a relatively contested line throughout the tournament because it feels safe to go into. However, when we've got 3-4 players playing it, it's no longer that safe.
All right, we do go into the next curse. There is a decent amount of 5-cost offered in Aatrox and maybe like an Ahri, nothing too special. But I feel like the 4-2 like Prismatic did kind of decide the placements for most of the players here.
One thing I do want to point out for Toronto Tokyo, of course, we saw a little bit before and we stepped away from. We noted he was in a very strong position. He's managed to pick up level up as well to turn that big pile of gold he had in pocket into an even more insane late game board.
So Toronto Tokyo was really good at closing out games. He actually managed to find quite a bit of first places. In the first 2 days of regionals, he had a 50% first rate, which is quite incredible. He's very good at capping these boards. So I like to see him going for that, but the fact that he was in Misfortune makes this very interesting. Going for level up, now he's going to push levels and potentially...
Is this guy going level 10?
Yeah,
It feels like he needs to find 5 cost carries to replace this instead now.
I mean, he's got the shoplifting, so he's going to be getting some pretty spicy, expensive units from the shop. Plus 5 gold per turn ain't nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of HP still to chew through, right? 63, it's on stage 4. He's probably losing most of these fights because he's 1-star Misfortune carry on 4 or 5.
What do you mean? What do you mean? It's fine.
I guess the Nico's still popping off, though.
Seems to be sufficient for requirements in this particular instance. Going to be a little bit tight as the Misfortune again. It's horribly vulnerable to any sort of damage, but it's not the big loss we would have expected.
It's a very
loss streak.
Amazing loss. Like, wow, he only took 1 unit's worth of damage. That means he can lose 10 more fights.
Well, you know, Cass, you're talking about win conditions here. You know, if we're not going to see that much damage being pushed into Toronto Tokyo, who's still up at the top of the table in terms of HP, and with that level up, surely he's on par for first place.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got a good shout for it, right? But the board's not there yet, right? He's got HP, he's got a lot of gold in as far as in levels. It's a matter of can this board strength come together? I mean, what would you be looking for, Bebe, at that point? Because he's on this Misfortune, but he's got to move away from that.
Well, Toronto Tokyo is probably just going to go for 5 cost spam with the Ixtal like a bonus, but right now I'm looking at Wet Jungler's board, and I'm slightly worried. He found his Fiora way too late because everybody else did find their upgrades at this point on. Will this be good enough to survive or not? We shall have to see.
Yeah, Cass, we were so excited to see this board coming together. Right now, it seems like it's just maybe barely good enough. The Morkars are surviving for a long time. Quinn coming out with the last shot. But I think it's maybe not quite good enough.
No, it will be! Just gets there.
He's on 16 HP. I am still very afeared of Wet Jungler's chances.
This is massive for Wet Jungler, though. If he can live to the carousel and high roll a Demacia emblem, he can still win this game, right? He just has to be able to get to level 8. That would be, you know, the ability to put in 9 Demacia immediately. So maybe there's a chance for that to happen because he's got this Tactician's Crown, but Wet Jungler still, he's got to get there. There's a couple more rounds to go.
I mean, it's an awkward spot. He wants that Fiora too because this huge power spike with the Slayer spec because Slayer Fiora does a lot of damage. I'm more concerned about Wet Jungler's position because if you put Fiora in the middle, it does tend to get focused out really fast. So you do want Fiora at the melee here to be at a side location. Let's see if he readapts to his opponents.
Well, you guys, talk to me about this here then. You know, we know that for Wet Jungler, there's only going to be 2 lives left in lobby. In terms of what you've been seeing in this lobby so far, are there any boards that Wet Jungler absolutely has to avoid?
There are a lot of boards that he needs to avoid. It's not just 1 or 2. Let's just hope he finds the Fiora really fast, and maybe he can survive long enough to Crystal, as Casanova said, to find 9 Damashas.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he can eat up some of these Vanquisher boards that haven't been able to fully hit because they're contested. I feel like, you know, Kurum, that was one board that he was able to beat. Potentially, Bobe is weak enough. We haven't seen him in a while, but just I'm thinking of any of the players who were within that line. I think those are the ones that maybe this Demacia can get through.
All right, we're looking at Bobe's board, and as I said, he doesn't have any tank items, right? No armor and a lot of physical damage lobby as well, too. The Karma set up, he's forced to go for a Jewel Gauntlet. Let's see how the fight goes.
Yeah, going to be up against Kez, who is doing pretty well. Note that across the whole lobby, the HP totals are relatively close up into each other. As Bobe's board goes off, one more big ult will clean up the rest, and Bobe stays up as everybody else starts to drop down into the 30s and 20s.
As you can see, this is what we call a glass cannon comp. Everybody just offered a bunch of 80 damage itemization, but no tank value. So it's actually really awkward to make it happen.
Yeah, and Toronto Tokyo did exactly what you were saying, right? Those 5 costs. He ends up rolling down actually a massive amount of gold on level 9. I think he econned, you know, a couple more rounds so that he could have a huge roll down. He still had 20 gold. You know, he's still finishing the roll down, but the board is so upgraded.
This guy is gonna get a 5-cost 3-star at the first game in Worlds. Oh my god, he can later sell his entire board to look for RE3. Whoa!
I really like this here. Toronto's been playing this game out so incredibly well. To spend the money here to make sure that he has got a long-term future in this game, I think it's a good, you know, conservative choice. I mean, his board is just absolutely ridiculous. And Karim X, who said, Wet Jungler and Karim, they're both looking to avoid these big, strong boards. That hasn't happened for Karim.
Yeah, Kurum running into Toronto just as he hits on this massive roll down. Fight maybe a little closer than we would have expected. In fact, Toronto Tokyo, after rolling all that gold on 9, hitting all of these 5 costs, still loses to Kurum's Neela Azir board.
Oh, so you're telling me that a 140 gold can lose to a 60 gold board? That doesn't make sense.
No, that's not allowed.
Right, it's perfectly balanced.
I've always worked on the assumption if it's worth more in every circumstance. But while that was a good round for Carmex, for Wet Jungler, things are looking a lot more dicey. On 8 HP, did hit that Fiora 2 you were calling for from before, but it may still not be enough.
Gangplank's tilted from the previous fight.
He's just standing.
What are you guys
frozen.
doing?
All right, well, Wet Jungler, right? Could be his final fight. We were talking about making it to the carousel, having an opportunity. I like that he went to level 8. He's preparing himself for the high roll out. If he can hit the 9 Demacia is good. But he runs into Tex, and Tex now has Trickster's class on this Vel'Koz. It is so scary. Look at these multicasters raining down fire, but they're not busting through all of the tanky stats on top of the Demacia, and Wet Jungler will live to the carousel.
Tex Summers actually is opening up a squish shop with all those copies of those like a multicast, but they do get one shot in the end. That's why multicasts are off mid at the moment.
Let's have a look and see.
There
We
are
have got
emblems.
There
No
is not a
Demacia.
Demacia.
Oh.
There are 4 emblems, just not quite the right one. We are moving into the end stage of this game, though. In second place, Beta on 29 HP. Everybody else dropping down dramatically. We should be seeing some eliminations very soon.
Yeah, and it feels like Wet Jungler may be on that list of eliminations very soon. I do love that he played to his out, though, right? He went for that Tactician's Tools, knowing that he could get to level 8 and still have 9 available. And if he high rolls the right emblem, he gets there. He was at the bottom. If there's a Demacia emblem on this carousel, he has a chance to win the game.
It's also kind of funny how Piva, who had a full win streak, no, he had like a 4 win streak at stage 2, is now at 8, and he's building to. Oh, Sorks are bad. Don't build Sorks, guys. Like, wow. Full win streak until losing every fight.
It's not looking good. Wet Jungler, Piva, Keds, all on a single life potentially out of this round. They haven't got a chance, or at least Piva is not facing either of them, so it does have a chance to punch up the table and maybe start clawing away some of those 20 HP players.
Yeah, I mean, let's see who he rolls in this fight, right? It could be Tex, it could be Kurum. It's going to be Tex. I don't know if he can stand up to all this damage. It feels like the Sorks are going to be a little too slow to deal with the multis, but as we see, I mean, the Vel'Koz firing away onto the front line. This Taric is living for quite a long time, but finally the front line cracks on both sides. Still that Cassidy remaining, tanking up a little bit. But will the Silco's damage punch through? It's a little too slow, and here comes the Vel'Koz. Piva will be our first to fall alongside Kess. We'll see where the HP ends up. Is it an 8th or a 7th here for Piva?
7th at least. At least that early gate tempo gets you a 7 with 4 Sorks.
I mean, that's something, but certainly Piva, one of the most anticipated players coming into this tournament. It's got to be disappointing to start off in 7th. It's a long road to climb from here, but at least there are plenty more games to make it happen.
Yeah, and Poro not giving us the initial start we might have wanted to see from a unique legend choice. A lot of players moving away from this legend, but Kess used it to success to qualify for the championship and has held strong. Does net an 8th here, and Wet Jungler has held on for a 6th. He's put together 7 Demacia, 6 Slayer. It's a reasonably strong comp.
This is a very reasonably strong comp against another reasonably strong comp. Ionians versus Demasians. Which region is ahead? Let us see. The front line melts so quick. What is that? Queen all one-shot.
It's a big loss. Bobby's going to go down. Bobe's out in 6th.
Wow. If we're talking about players which we would not have expected to bottom for the first game, Bobe will be absolutely at the very top of the list. The HP totals are incredibly close, though, with only Toronto sitting high on 34.
And Wet Jungler has done a really great job clawing back into this game, right? This was looking like a very easy 8th could have come through for Wet Jungler, but he's held on. He's at least got a 5th here, and potentially Beta goes out before him because I think finding that 6th Slayer has made it so that Wet Jungler is actually in a position to top 4.
We can actually see the power output from a 6-Slayer Fiora. The front line just melts down like cotton candy instantly. The only counter in this lobby might be Toronto Tokyo because he's got units that can die, like the Heimerdinger turret or Scion. Let's see how far Wet Jungler can get.
Yeah, Toronto Tokyo, you look at the gold. Is he going to 10? Yeah, he is.
Oh,
there
yeah.
we go. Level 10 Toronto Tokyo. He wants to close out this lobby. We got Toronto and Kurum 1-2 right now. I'm excited about my predictions.
Oh no, it's happening all over again, and they're looking very good. As you know, Toronto Tokyo, a player, which I think is going to receive a lot of praise for this game. Absolutely iron mental, has so healthy, so much gold, set up for success.
Now, Toronto Tokyo is level 10, but I do worry about the value of each unit because he does not have much itemizations, and he doesn't really have a strong setup. So let's see both fights right now.
Yeah, we're watching now, looking at Wet Jungler and Beta on the 2 sides here. Wet Jungler trying to hold on, going up against Kurum, as we see the Mordekais are falling very quickly to the Azir, and now the Nila gets to the backline, the Azir to finish it off. Wet Jungler will fall, but on the other side, we've got another loss.
Beta looks like to be out there as well. Again, it's going to be a matter of just a few HP. No, Beta's still alive. Let's see where we stand. Tech Summers is out in 5th. Wet Jungler by 2 HP, just as it was before. And Koromex out in 3rd on exactly 0.
Triple elimination on that game, and now it's heads up, Toronto versus Beta.
Okay, so Beta needs to make the most important decision of his life here. To FF or not to FF?
Oh, come
FF or
on!
not to FF? That is the question.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at this board from Beta, and I feel like you're stoked about a second here. It doesn't look bad by any means, but we see these boards go out in 5th. We see these boards go out all the time.
2 more 5-cost 2-stars on the board.
And now he's going up against level 10 Toronto
Oh,
Tokyo. Like, no shot at all.
There's an absolutely huge amount of gold on the other side of the board here in our first game of the Runeterra
Oh, it's just gone.
Toronto Tokyo sweeps away the field.